go back to the room.
Let me close the room.
You okay? Can we go? No, let's go back to the room. Yeah, everybody will come here. Yeah.
may be seated. Kohelet teaches us that there is a season under the heavens for everything. There are times for dancing, and there are times for stillness. There are times for singing and times for silence. There are times for joy and times for wailing and sadness. And there's times for seeking, and there are times for losing. When we lose a loved one, when a loved one dies and is no longer with us in this world, we are, of course, filled with sadness over their absence. And yet we also have with us joyful, loving memories of how we knew the person, how they helped us, how they shaped us. And as we remember those and we share them with one another, we feel joy, we feel happiness to feel their presence with us, if only in an emotional way. And so the time of mourning is a confusing one. It is not all of one emotion. And so we join together. We come together to pay our last respect to David, to escort him to his final resting place, and ourselves to take upon ourselves the mitzvah, the work of making sure that he has a proper and a respectful and a loving burial, so that we can fulfill the verse teaching us that our bodies and our life comes from the earth and we return to the earth. In this sacred moment, just want to remind everyone, as I remind myself right now, to silence all of our electronics. And if we have multiple distractors, make sure that they're all taken care of. I want to thank that person for just giving the perfect illustration. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai, mi agur ba'ohelecha, mi yishkom b'achal kodshecha, holech tamim u'ferot tzedek v'dover emet bilevavo. Lo ragal al leshono, lo asa l'rehu ra'a, v'cherpa lo nasa al krovo. Nivzeh be'enav nimas ve'et yir'ei Adonai yichabed, nishba l'charav v'lo yamir. Kaspo lo natan b'neshech, v'shochad al naki lo lakach, v'ose'ele. Lo yimot leolam. From Psalm 15, pondering the question of how can we know that we have done well in our life? How can we know that we deserve to draw closer to God? Do we deserve to enter God's sanctuary? Can we merit a place in the presence of God? Live with integrity. Do what is right. Speak the truth without deceit. Have no slander upon your tongue. Do no evil to others. Do not mistreat your neighbor. Spurn a contemptible person, but honor those who revere Adonai. Never retract a promise once made, though it may bring you harm. Lend no money at unfair rates. Accept no bribe against the innocent. Make these deeds your own, then shall you stand firm forever. In our hope, in our faith, that ultimately God will treat us with the love and respect that matches how we lived our lives in this world. We think of Psalm 18. Im chasid tit chasad, im gevar tamim titamam. God, with the loyal, you deal loyally. and with the blameless, blamelessly. Im navar titbarar v'im ikesh titpatal. With the pure you act purely, and with the perverse you are wily. Ki ata am ani toshia ve'inaim ramot tashpil. It is you, God, who deliver lowly folk, but haughty eyes you humble. Ki ata ta'ir ne'i anai Elohai yagia choshki. It is you, God, who lights up my lamp. It is you, God, who lights up my darkness. Ki v'cha arutz gedud uvelohai adaleg shore. With you, God, I can rush a barrier, I can scale a wall. Ki v'cha arutz gedud uvelohai adaleg shore. Ha'el tamim darko imrat Adonai tzerufa magen hu l'chol ha'chosim bo. The way of God is perfect. The word of Adonai is pure. God is a shield to all who seek refuge. And Cantor is going to sing Psalm 23, that beautiful psalm that captures so eloquently what we hope for in life, but also what we hope for in death. That we are a part of the flock of God, that our shepherd will gather us together and will hold us in unity. In some ways, we are that flock right now, taking care of David, and we're praying and hoping as well that his neshama, his soul, is making its journey to connect with our Creator and being a part of the flock of eternity. Psalm 23.
Mizmor leDavid, Adonai ro'i lo echsar, binodeh sheyarbitzeini, al mei menuchot, yenaleini. Nafshi yeshovev, yanecheni b'maglei tzedek, leman shemo, leman shemo, leman shemo. גם כי אלך בגיא צל מוות לא יירא רע כי אתה עמדי שיבתך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני תערוך לפני שולחן נגד צורריי דישנת ושמן ראשי כוסי רוויה אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים. Adonai is my shepherd, I shall not want. God gives me repose in green meadows and guides me over calm waters. God will revive my spirit and direct me on the right path, for that is God's way. Though I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no harm, for you are at my side. Your staff and your rod comfort me. You prepare a banquet for me in the presence of my foes. You anoint my head with oil, and my cup overflows. Surely goodness and kindness shall be my portion all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of Adonai forever.
David was not a provincial person. Right? He was not a man of a place. He was certainly connected to a number of places, to Paris, the city of his birth, to Tehran, the city of his family, and where he met Farzana, to Queens and Roslyn, the cities of his adult life as well, but not of any of these places in particular. And in our society today, we are quite transient. Fewer and fewer Americans grow up in a particular place and stay there, or return there after college. People move from place to place for a better job, for a house, for better weather, for lower taxes. And it may shock you to know that the average number of years a house is owned before being sold again is 5. For most Americans, the town we grew up in is the town we go back to, perhaps with nostalgia, but not the town that we currently live in. Well, David moved quite a bit, especially in his early years, but not for any of those reasons. They moved for the old, classic Jewish reasons of needing to escape and find safety. And perhaps that's one of the reasons David looked very close to himself for comfort and support, why family was so especially important, and why he would say that my temple is my home. Right? That home could have been in Paris, Tehran, Forest Hills, Jamaica State, Queens, or here in Roslyn. Didn't matter. It was his temple, his sacred place. Now, David Rabenou was born in 1933, and like many of his time who were made refugees by the course of world events, he lived in many places. And though his family was well established, David's father, Rahullah Tzion, was an archaeologist himself, who would go on to dig with the famous Israeli general and archaeologist Yigal Yadin. More on the archaeology and the antiquities in a moment. But David was born in 1933, a year not good for the Jewish people in other ways. Hitler was coming to power across the border in Germany. And his parents, Rahullah, Tzion, and Habiba, they started to recognize the signs that things were getting worse. And eventually with Bijan and with Irene, I'm trying to say the French pronunciation, forgive me. They fled in 1939 when a friend, a Muslim friend, who worked in diplomacy, warned them that they were running out of time. So after growing up in Paris until he was 7, he got on the Orient Express with his family and made that train ride to Baghdad and eventually to Tehran, where they were able to escape from the Shoah. In 3 months after they left, 3 months, the borders closed. So very lucky. And David found meaning in that story, in having survived and been warned and made that journey, and he really found meaning in sharing it, his story of survival, with others. But after the war, David came to the United States, third country, to boarding school, and then college and pharmacy school in Brooklyn. Hard for most of us these days to imagine what that must have been like, alone, halfway around the world, studying and learning, communication only through letters. But David did it. And then he went back to Tehran, and that's where he met Farzana. And they married in 1963 before coming back to the United States, living in Forest Hills for their first 5 years together before the important mitzvah of kibud av v'em, of honoring our parents, led them to move back to Tehran for 5 years to care for his ailing father. Once he had died, though, they were able to come back to Long Island, and he continued his career in the pharmacy world with a pharmacy and living in Jamaica Estates and then Roslyn. Now, each move was vitally important to the family and to his future. But these journeys, they don't define David's neshama, his soul, or his character. A strong family long before they first moved to Paris and then had to flee just 16 years later. Was their strong sense of family a reason they were able to escape? And then again to flee Iran before the revolution? Who can say? What is most important is that through these experiences, David was tremendously dedicated to his family, essential to him. And he felt lucky and blessed to have such a great family. Deep appreciation. Well, before long, he and Farzana had Navid, Rochelle, and Daniel. And Navid brought Meran and Milen and Maxine and Charlene and Alex. And then Rochelle and Andrew brought April and Robin and Jonathan. And we're going to hear from some of them in a few moments, some thoughts about their grandfather or about their father-in-law. When I asked Farzana, tell me about your love for David. Tell me about how you knew him. She said the most important thing was the unity they felt together, the love they shared, and the children they raised. Simple to say in a sentence. Challenging and hard work every day of a life, though. It's beautiful. And I think that also gives us a picture, a window into David's gentle soul, perhaps shaped by the challenging circumstances he and his family had to overcome. He always had a positive attitude. He felt like he had a guardian angel, never complaining about needing surgery or something else. He didn't want to bother anyone, and even to the famous degree that one time at home he fell and broke his hip. Instead of calling anyone, he waited in some pain. He waited for the girls to get home and said, yeah, I probably broke something. You probably should get me to the hospital. But I didn't want to bother you. So I knew I could wait till you got home. Very kind and thoughtful man. Also very polite, highly educated, a reader of geography and of history, lover of nature. He gardened, loved just to look at trees and flowers, testing his mind with crossword puzzles. And he loved photography, developing and printing pictures at home. And of course, he and Farzana socialized a lot with card games and movies, and of course, Shabbat dinner. He was very respectful, part of which was expressed through his detailed and always proper dress. But respectful of others meant patience, good etiquette, not speaking out of turn, and not to gossip. Very much bringing to life the teaching of Pirkei Avot, to say little and do much. A giving person, he always just wanted to help, whether it was leaving a larger tip than probably was necessary at a restaurant, or giving money to someone asking for it on the street. But also, he and his family gave to everyone. The archaeology that led to the antiquities business ultimately led to the Ayub Rabenou Gallery that's part of the Bronfman Archaeology Wing of the Israel Museum. And I encourage you, go online. You can find it very easily in the Israel Museum. You can see parts of the exhibits, and when there, you can visit it in person. Just a beautiful gift to the world, and especially to the Jewish people. And so a picture of David, of a thoughtful, hardworking, considerate, educated man, is a powerful one. But now, to give it a little more spirit, emotion, to help us understand the strength and beauty of those individual relationships, we'll be blessed to hear from two of his granddaughters, first Milen, and then Maxine, and then his son-in-law, Andrew. So, Milen?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for all being here today to celebrate the beautiful life of my dear grandfather, David Rabenou. My name is Milen Malik, and as David's eldest grandchild, I was blessed with the privilege of knowing him deeply and learning from his wisdom, love, and quiet strength. Papa, you were not just a grandfather to me, but a mentor, a storyteller, and a constant presence of joy and positivity. Some of my favorite memories with you include our walks outdoors in nature, enjoying a glass of Cabernet, hearing the stories of your life, and asking you for some life advice. You left me with some life advice that I'd love to share with you all today over the past few years. You mentioned to me, actually, he wrote it on a piece of paper to me personally a few years ago. Never let anything or anyone put you down. To not be a pessimist. Life is beautiful, don't waste it. And take a look around you and be in awe of it. Papa, thank you for your wisdom, your warmth, and kindness. You had a way of enjoying your life, taking pleasure in some of the simplest things. You believe that sometimes the simplest things in life brought us the most joy, like the beauty of nature, a delicious glass of wine, or a dinner surrounded by loved ones. Also, one of the things that brought you great joy was giving to those in need, whether it was giving an extra generous tip to the restaurant waiter or those on the street who were begging. My grandfather believed that he was one of the most fortunate people in the world, the most fortunate husband to Farzaneh, the most fortunate father to Rochelle and Daniel and Navid, and the most fortunate grandfather to all his grandchildren. Papa, we will miss you deeply, your laughter, your wisdom, and your warm smile. We will carry your memory in our hearts and continue to honor you through the way that we live, we love, and support one another. We love you, and may you rest in peace.
Good afternoon. My name is Maxine Malik-Mer. My family and I are deeply grateful for everyone being here as we remember and celebrate the life of David Rabenou, or as we called him, our Papa. Papa was the happiest man in the world, a man who radiated joy, kindness, and a genuine love for life. He was a very special, beautiful soul who touched everyone he met with his warmth, wisdom, and sense of humor. He had this unforgettable cheek-to-cheek smile, twinkling eyes, and a musical hello that made you feel like the most important person in the room. He had an incredible mind and a deep love for learning. Papa could read all day long, constantly soaking up facts and stories to feed his encyclopedia-like knowledge. He loved to share what he learned with others, not to impress, but to connect. Papa taught us what it meant to truly enjoy life, whether it was through his generous spirit or simply spending time with family and friends. He led by example. He showed us how to love unconditionally, how to give selflessly, and how to find joy in the little things, like buying us giant Sour Patch candies or buying lottery tickets just for fun. He was wise, kind, and funny, a man of deep integrity, who always looked for ways to help those less fortunate. He was our guide through life, our strength in times of struggle, and the steady foundation of our family. Most of all, Papa loved his family and adored his amazing wife. He was our patriarch, and his presence made our world brighter and more meaningful. Though he may not be with us physically anymore, the memory of his warm smile, boundless love, and the countless lessons he taught us will live in my heart forever. I love you, Papa.
And Andrew?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here today to honor and remember my father-in-law, David Rabenou, a man who touched many lives. David was more than just a father-in-law to me. He was a mentor, a friend, a drinking buddy, and just someone you could always feel comfortable around. From the first time I met him, he always made me feel welcomed, which was no small task as I was a young American kid being thrown into the Persian culture. It can be pretty intimidating. In fact, he had a way of making everyone feel welcomed and valued, whether a short conversation, a shared laugh, or just a simple gesture. He could always make you feel at ease. My favorite memories of David are the times we would spend at his home, whether it was Shabbat dinner, a holiday, or just watching the game. I remember how he'd be telling stories about his younger days or just playing cards or backgammon with the family. He was always with a glass of wine in his hand and a twinkle in his eye. He didn't just live for himself, he lived for his family and his friends. That was what was most important to him. David was a man of integrity and kindness. He always wished the best for others, even when it wasn't deserved. That was just the kind of guy he was. He could always rise above the negativity and see the goodness. But what always stood out most was his love for his family. He was a devoted husband, father, grandfather, and a source of endless love and support, always ready to do whatever was needed. I know in these situations it's typical for people to say, just remember the good things. But with David, there truly is only good things. I have never met a kinder, gentler, or more welcoming man. I am honored to have been part of his family and have received so much from him. As we say goodbye, I find comfort in knowing that David's spirit lives on in all of us, in the lessons he taught, the love he shared, and the memories we carry forward. Let's all honor him by living with the same courage, kindness, integrity, joy, and love that defined his life. I know we will continue to tell his stories, share his wisdom, and keep his love alive in our hearts. On behalf of the family, thank you all for being here, for loving David, and for supporting us through this time. May his memory be a blessing for you always.
In a moment, Cantor is going to chant the El Malei Rachamim prayer in David's honor. This prayer is truly beautiful. It asks for two things. It asks that our loved one find connection in the spiritual realm to God for eternity. And it also expresses the challenge and the hope that we bind up his memory into the bindings of this world and life. And that is really a challenge to all of us, all who knew him and all who loved him and liked him, to take the lessons of his life as you knew them, to find ways to carry forth the energy and the commitments he made and he lived out, and to do things in his honor, his memory. And that way, his memory truly will be a blessing for us and for the world. So after we chant El Malei Rachamim, and we say Amen, we will begin our procession to the cemetery. The family wants everyone to know that today they're invited back to the house, 19 Terrace Court in Old Westbury. The zip is 11568 in case you need it for GPS. And we expect that they'll be back from the cemetery by 3 p.m. Of course, everyone is also encouraged to come to the cemetery to help us see to David's burial as well. But if you're not able to, know that 3 p.m. is when we expect they'll be back to gather together. And because of the calendar, the Jewish calendar, we have our holiday of Shavuot beginning this evening. And the way our tradition governs this process, it means that Shiva technically ends at sunset. But we know the family wants to be gathering and they still need to be supported, and we still need to cherish David's memory. And so there will be opportunities to gather together, especially on Wednesday of this week after the holiday is over. And so if you need those details, you can ask here at the synagogue office, or we can share them with you in another time. So if everyone could please stand as we begin our procession.
El Malei Rachamim שוכן במרומים. אמצי מנוחה נכונה, תחת כנפי השכינה. במעלות קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר הרקיע, מסיירים לנשמת דוד בן רוחל ציון, שהלך לעולמו. בגן עדן תהא מנוחתו. לכן בעל הרחמים, הסתירהו בסתר כנפיך לעולמים. וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתו, אדוני הוא נחלתו, וינוח ושלום על משכבו, ונאמר אמן.
El Maleh Rachamim, exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure, to the soul of David ben Ruhola Zion, who has gone to his eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life. May he rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. We'll begin our procession now.
This one I'm taking.
Okay.
If somebody from the family is taking the other two.
Yeah, I think that was the blue one.
Is this also another one?
Huh?
Is this one for,
Yeah, the guy told me he put it two in his car, bring to her house.
okay, and this one, what are we gonna do?
Just two.
Oh, they're gonna put it in there?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll leave it?
Yeah, leave it.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
He take one of it.
Can I go out this way?
Maybe chocolate.
No, I don't want it to rain.
Yeah. No.
bien se va a descansar, dice la gente. Mal. Que vaya a descansar. Así dice. A pelear por San Pedro, ya que me pelear con los... Pelear con el Angelito. Nadie sabe. Es una curiosidad que la